At 85 years old, I never imagined that something so simple could change me so much. For more than 10 years, I lived with pain. First in my knees, then in my hands, and later in my back. It was the kind of pain that doesn't scream at you but follows you everywhere. Before I tell you what helped me, I'd love to know something about you. Where are you watching or listening from? Would you share your age and which country you're from down in the comments? I truly enjoy reading your stories, especially from others who, like me, are walking through life with quiet strength. I'd get up in the morning and already feel it, like a shadow that walked with me at every step. It made me slower, more uncertain, and if I'm honest, more tired of everything. I went to doctors, to physical therapists, took pills that promised relief. I tried injections, ointments, exercises, and stretching routines. Sometimes I felt a slight change, but I always ended up back at the same place. One day, while sitting quietly after a difficult night, I thought, this pain will be my companion until the end. And I accepted it, resigned. I told myself, this is aging. But it wasn't like that. Something changed. It was just a few days ago when I heard about a simple recipe made with turmeric, a spice I had sitting at home for years, forgotten in an old jar. I doubted it, of course. How could something so common make a difference after everything I had tried? But I told myself, you've tried everything. What do you have to lose? And I did it. I prepared the mixture. I drank it. And in just 4 days, the pain began to ease like never before. It didn't disappear completely, but it faded enough for me to realize that my body still had something to say. That's why I'm here today. I want to tell you exactly what I did, how I prepared it, why I think it worked, and how you might try it too. Because if this gave relief to someone like me, who already thought there was nothing left to try, maybe it can help you too. Before I tell you everything, I want to get to know you a little. Tell me in the comments, how old are you? And from which country are you listening? I'd love to read your stories. It all started with a little discomfort in my left knee. It wasn't serious, just a pinch when climbing stairs or getting up from the armchair. I thought it would be temporary, something that comes with age, but over the months the discomfort turned into pain, and the pain became a daily companion. Then it was the other knee, later the hips. Then it reached my hands. I struggled to turn a key in the lock, open a bottle, or simply button my shirt. I felt my fingers stiff in the morning, as if they belonged to someone else. I started avoiding movements I used to do without thinking, and I found myself walking slower, more carefully, always looking at the ground, as if I was afraid to fall. Sleeping also became a challenge. I woke up several times at night, trying to find a position that didn't hurt. Sometimes I managed to sleep 2 or 3 hours straight. Other times I just lay there quietly, waiting for the night to pass. And when dawn came, I felt like instead of resting, I'd worn myself out even more. I tried everything I could. I started with mild painkillers, then stronger ones. The doctor prescribed anti-inflammatories, pills I took cautiously because I didn't want to hurt my stomach. Then came creams, cold and hot gels. I rubbed my knees every night, hoping that burning sensation meant something was working. I also went to physical therapy for weeks. I followed instructions with discipline, stretching, gentle exercises, massages. Some sessions eased the pain a little, but the effect lasted briefly. After a few days, the pain returned, as if it had never left. It was like a wheel turning, always leaving me in the same place. I also tried home remedies, advice from friends, even supplements recommended in magazines. Every time someone said, "This helped me," I tried it because I wanted to believe. I wanted to think there was something, anything, that could give me back a bit of my body, my energy, my life. But nothing seemed enough. Nothing was lasting. I remember one afternoon after spending the whole day inside because it hurt to walk. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a tired person, not just physically, but tired of trying, of waiting, of waking up hoping the day would be different and seeing it was the same as the one before. That was when I thought clearly, maybe this is my fate. Maybe the pain is already part of me. It was a sad thought, very sad, because deep down I felt like I was giving up, that I had reached the point where one stops fighting. But inside, a part of me didn't want to accept it completely. Something told me there were still paths to explore. Maybe not the most well-known ones, not those found in medical prescriptions, but other ways to seek relief. Not necessarily cures, but hope. And that was enough to keep looking. It was then, in that mixture of resignation and rebellion, that I began looking toward the natural. Not as a magical solution, but as a possibility. And that's how turmeric came into my life. And with that thought in mind, I remembered something I had once read. I remember reading a phrase that stuck with me. Turmeric doesn't work magically. It works as nature does, slowly, deeply, and constantly. And that sums it all up. It's not magic. It's science and consistency. After reading and reading, I decided it was time to try. But I didn't want to complicate things or use ingredients I couldn't easily find. So I looked for a simple, natural recipe adapted to what I had at home. And that's how I prepared what many now call the golden drink. I used a level teaspoon of turmeric powder, a small pinch of ground black pepper, a cup of unsweetened plant-based milk. I used oat milk, but it can be almond, rice, or even cow's milk if that's what you have. Half a teaspoon of coconut oil, and yes, extra virgin olive oil can work too. A small piece of fresh grated ginger. That's optional, but I recommend it. In a small saucepan, I poured the cup of plant-based milk. Then I added the turmeric, pepper, ginger, and oil. I put it on very low heat, stirring with a wooden spoon so it wouldn't stick to the bottom. I didn't let it boil. I just heated it until it started to steam slightly and kept it that way for about 5 minutes, stirring constantly. When it was ready, I strained it through a fine filter in case there were ginger or turmeric residues that didn't dissolve. I let it cool and drank it slowly, like someone sitting down to enjoy something special. The taste is peculiar, somewhat earthy, with a spicy hint from the pepper. But with the oil and plant milk, it becomes smooth and warm. If you want, you can add a little natural honey, but I prefer it plain. One important thing I learned: black pepper is not decoration or a whim. It's essential. Pepper contains a substance called piperine, which multiplies by 20 the absorption of curcumin in the body. Without it, your body barely takes advantage of what you're drinking. So even if it's just a pinch, never forget it. At first, I made some mistakes. The first was wanting to use a lot of turmeric, thinking more would have a bigger effect. I don't recommend that. The flavor becomes very strong. And besides, taking more doesn't mean more benefit. The secret is consistency, not an excessive dose. I also tried making it in the microwave, but I didn't like the result. The best is to do it on the stove, with patience, like a little daily ceremony. I drank it every night before going to sleep, instead of coffee or tea. My golden cup became part of my routine. The warmth of the milk helped me relax, and knowing I was doing something good for myself gave me a feeling of control I hadn't felt in a long time. And that's the key to all this. It's not about seeking an immediate miracle or exaggerating quantities. It's about consistency, listening to your body, and giving it something good every day. The first day, I didn't expect anything. I just drank it. It was at night. I prepared the mixture calmly, as if cooking for someone dear. I sat in the kitchen, cup in hand, and drank slowly, feeling the warmth inside me. It tasted like earth, like home, like something ancient, but it also tasted like duout. I didn't believe something so simple could make a difference. At least not for me. I went to sleep with that thought. I have nothing to lose. The second day, I woke up as usual, a bit clumsy, with stiffness in my legs and hands. But when I went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, I noticed something different. It wasn't that the pain had disappeared, but I moved more freely. I stepped up the front step without holding on so much. I thought maybe it was a coincidence, but by mid-afternoon, walking toward the bedroom, I felt my step was firmer, as if something inside me was settling. That night, I repeated the recipe with more attention. And while stirring the mixture, I realized I wanted to see what would happen the next day. That little spark of hope seemed more valuable than any medicine. The third day was even clearer. I woke up with more energy. I didn't have to massage my fingers for 10 minutes before opening the window. I went out the front door and walked a little down the hallway without feeling that constant weight in my knees. The stiffness was still there, but less. And above all, the fear of moving was leaving. That fear that settles in the body when everything hurts, when every movement can bring a sharp pain. In the afternoon, while tidying some papers on a shelf, I bent down without thinking much. And that's when I realized I was doing things I had stopped doing without noticing. Small gestures, small movements. The body silently abandons them when there's pain, but now it seemed to want to remember them again. The fourth day was different. It was emotional. I don't know if it was the turmeric, the accumulated effect, or simply the feeling of doing something good for myself. But that day, I felt in control of my body again. I moved confidently. I made breakfast and took my walk around the yard, and even called my niece to tell her what I was feeling. She listened happily and said something that made me laugh. "See, Uncle? Sometimes what heals isn't in the pharmacy, but in the kitchen." That night, when I went to bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, not because the pain had disappeared completely, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt something was changing, that my body wasn't broken. It had just been waiting for a signal to react. And that's when I thought clearly. After so many years, my body felt like mine again. It wasn't a miracle cure. It wasn't the solution to everything, but it was a beginning, an awakening, a reminder that even at 84, there are still paths worth exploring. And if any part of what I've shared with you today touched your heart, whether it was the pain, the searching, or the small steps toward relief, I'd truly love to hear from you. You can share your thoughts, your story, or even a simple hello in the comments. Maybe you've tried something natural that helped you too. Or maybe you're still searching. Whatever you write, know that you're not alone. I'll be reading, and if this story reminded you of someone who might need it, feel free to pass it along. Because sometimes healing begins with just one shared story.